Good morning. It's Monday, April 20th. Welcome to our Bible study. Okay, we've had a couple days off. I pray that you found a meaningful way to worship this weekend. I appreciate the fact that during this time of quarantine, we can use the technology that God has given us to continue His work. But I think there's a danger in doing online church too. One of the dangers is that we just tend to fit it in whenever we have a spare moment. And as a result, we may become complacent about our walk with the Lord. I encourage you to have a set time for your devotions. Make it a special time, sort of like a date. Get dressed and prepare. Allow it to become an important part of your day. Well, enough about that. Today we will be continuing our study of Isaiah with a look at Isaiah chapter 55 verses 8 and 9. I encourage you to find it in your Bibles and follow along. Do you ever question God's wisdom? An earthquake kills 2,000 people in South America. A tornado kills 200 people in Louisiana. A fire kills 20 people in a nursing home. Your loved ones get sick and dies. When these things happen, we tend to say, where is God? Why did He allow this to happen? What good could possibly come out of this? Sometimes we even begin to doubt His goodness and wonder if He really does care or if He really does have things under control. One of the amazing things about God is that He does not have a need to defend Himself. He listens to all of our arguing and whining and complaining, and He quietly whispers in our ear, "Your ways are not my ways." That's what God says to the nation of Israel in today's text. Earlier in the book of Isaiah, God has told the people that they would be defeated in battle and that they would be taken into captivity. This defeat would be a punishment for their wickedness and idolatry, but God had also promised that He would not forget them there. He would send a Redeemer and that He would bring them home and He would bless them. All of this, I'm sure, put a lot of questions in the minds of the people. They must have said, why? Why all the destruction? Why all the pain and suffering and loss of life? But God doesn't respond to that, except to say, your ways are not my ways. Let's take a look at this passage, Isaiah chapter 55, beginning at verse 8. He says there, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts." God says that He doesn't think in the same way that we do. Now, I will not try and explain how God thinks differently from us, but we know from His Word and from creation that He's not limited in the ways that we are. He knows everything. King David of Israel knew that about God, and he speaks of it in Psalms 139. Remember what David went through before he became king? God had revealed that he, David, would be the next king of Israel after Saul. But God allowed Saul to chase David around the countryside, trying to kill him for years. And when David had the opportunity to slay Saul and take the kingdom, he didn't. He waited on the Lord. That is the David that says in Psalm 139, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know the hairs on my head. How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them." If you haven't read Psalm 139 lately, I encourage you to turn there and allow the awesomeness of God expressed there to sink in for a few minutes. Well, here in Isaiah chapter 55, verse 8, God continues, "Neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." Just as God doesn't think in the same way that we do, He also does not act in the same way that we do. God sees the beginning from the end and the end from the beginning. He knows what He's doing. Our tendency is to see a situation and respond to it. We see the weather forecast, so we put on a jacket. We see empty spots in our pantry, so we plan a shopping trip, and on and on. But God doesn't operate that way. He knows already all the implications of every action. He weighs them all, and He accomplishes His purpose. And He declares that His ways are right. In verse 9, He says, "As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. God has created us as intelligent beings, and we're capable of thought and reason. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, but we're not God. His ways are right and true and good. We don't always see the goodness or understand the wisdom, but we need to believe that His ways are right and true and good. The Apostle Paul came to understand that. He was persecuted, whipped, even left for dead. How did he respond? He didn't question God's goodness. He didn't consider abandoning God to do it his own way. Take a look at what Paul says in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, where he concludes with these words, "Therefore we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes on what is seen, not on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Let me repeat verse 18. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. If you want to accept that, but you find it difficult, review the story of Job. Job feels like he's been mistreated, and he demands an audience with God so he can straighten things out. He lays out all of his complaints, and they're legitimate complaints, and he demands that God explain himself. In chapter 38 and following of the book of Job, God responds. And there we get a glimpse of the awesomeness of God. Take time to read those chapters as well. I pray that you will come to accept that God is an awesome God, and that you will be able to trust that He is good, even when you don't understand what He's doing. I pray God's blessing on you this week. I'm going to need to work a few days again this week, so I'm not sure when I'll be posting. Today, Sunday afternoon, I'm recording 2 sessions, and I will release one Monday and another on Wednesday. Hopefully, I will have time to do another one for Thursday or Friday. God bless you all. Goodbye.